Work it out, y'all. Hey guys, Heretic of You here. And today we're going to be talking about some Relic Knights. And what you're looking at is the Black Diamond battle box. I figure it's going to be kind of a long video because I tried it a couple times and I rambled on for like 20 minutes. I'm going to try not to do that, but there's a lot to cover, and I figure you might as well look at something while we discuss my initial thoughts of the game. Whoa, hang on. Phone. First of all, I want to do at least a shout out to Matt Hoteling for pointing out that I was not using looter in my last battle report. Actually, I haven't been using looter in much of my battles of Relic Knights. Like I said, I'm new. I got about 4, maybe 5 games in. And anyways, I appreciate Mike for your comment, and I can't wait to test out that ability again. So I'll probably get in a battle Friday, hopefully with these guys, and hopefully with the Corsairs as well. So that goes out for Mike. Second order of business, no one out there on the internet got the theme song, the anime theme song in my last video. So I'm just going to give you guys the answer. The name of the anime is Beelzebub. Yeah, it was a little tough one because it was actually one of the ending themes. So kind of threw you guys. I wanted to challenge you guys, okay? And just so you know, the anime themes that I pick are animes that I actually watch. So I'm not just like picking some obscure anime just to mess with you guys. We're gonna keep the game going. If you can guess that intro theme that I was just playing right there, the anime, put it in the comments. First person to comment will get a bonus point. And as always, I don't know what the hell you do with the bonus points. You just get them. Okay, they're just awesome like that. Anyways, let's move on to Relic Knights. My initial impressions, and I'm gonna break it up into 2 parts. One, I'm gonna talk about the models, because to me, models are one of the main reasons why people get into the game. So if you are curious about Relic Knights, there's a couple of well, hopefully this video will sort of help you, even though I am already rambling, in making your decision whether or not you want to jump in or not. I'll talk about cost a little bit, and finally the rules and mechanics. So that's how we'll break it down. But let's continue with the intro music. So first person to guess what this is gets a point. I'm gonna play just a few seconds of it. Oh yeah, that's one of my favorites. Okay, so let's talk about the Relic Knights aesthetically. So Relic Knights is obviously inspired by anime of all sorts. So this particular box set has a couple of interesting influences. The troopers here, they're called the Diamond Corps. These guys sort of remind me of the tank police from Dominion Tank Police, and I really like that. It's an older anime, but I really like it. So it's very anime inspired. For some reason, this guy, I know I didn't paint him as such, but he kind of reminds me of an armored Mewtwo for some reason. That's what I've been calling him. And you can tell by this guy, even though he's not really all the way finished, these are still work in progresses, by the way. I always say that, but I actually mean it. So this is a little Pichu from Pokemon. And then there's the tank from Tank Police, Bonaparte. So I think when people first got their miniatures from Relic Knights, when it first started shipping, there was a lot of, how do I explain? Kind of a watchdog type scenario where people were really upset. There were complaints about the mold lines and complaints about the quality of sculpts. Okay, if you don't know what Watch Dogs is, it's a video game, and basically when they were showing it off before the product actually launched, the graphics were amazing, and people were it was one of the most anticipated video games of the year. And then when it finally hit the shelves and people got it home, they got a different quality, and it kind of pissed off the community. And we're seeing that with Relic Knights. So the question is that justified? And I'm going to try to be objective about this as possible. And let me just clarify that, yes, I am a volunteer for the Ninja program, but I have not received any free products from the Relic Knights. This is a box set that I bought at a local game store, and my Corsairs I bought as well. So I'm spending my own money, and I'm expecting, quality for that money that I've spent. So if we look at the entire range of Relic Knights, there are models that are amazing. They're just simply badass, must-have. Most of those being the actual Relic Knight for each faction. If you know what a Relic Knight is, it's sort of the central, or the centerpiece of each cadre. And if you need to Google some of the images, because the Relic Knights are just, badass. A lot of the individuals for Relic Knights are badass. One of my favorite models is the Iron Chef, which is this raccoon chef thing, and it's really characterful and fun. If you don't like anime, if you have a problem with anime, you are going to dread the aesthetics of this game, because it is heavily influenced by anime. And it's anime of all types, space pirates and, the Oni demons. You've got, the racer teams, and you got it just sort of runs the gamut of anime, even some moe stuff, which I think is hilarious, and can't wait to get some hands on that stuff. So, I can see where the community has a problem with that. As far as my opinion goes, it's pretty simple. Overall, I'm going to give the models a C+, because some of the sculpts are simply amazing, must-have, iconic. They really stand out amongst miniature manufacturers, and some of them are subpar. There's no middle ground there. There's just some of the models are just badass, and some of them are just meh. And so I give it a C+. The reason it doesn't get a B for me is my pet peeve about the models is the scale. And you could say, okay, well, if we look at the background, these factions come from different galaxies, so humanoid creatures might not be the same size. But we're talking, there are some scale problems in the same faction, and so that's why it's being downgraded from a B minus to a C plus for me. But you can judge for yourself. Like this box set, I think is fine. I love the questing might. The hell am I talking? The questing knight. This is Leopold, and he's a pretty awesome sculpt. The troopers are pretty, I don't know, generic. Just kind of, hey, we need, futuristic sci-fi looking guys, and they just spit those guys out. The tank is a fun model to paint. I just wish it had a little bit more to it. But overall, I think C+. Okay? Let's move on, because I'm already over time, and I don't care. Cost is amazing. Your entry fee is about $50. This box cost me $50, and I don't want to go over all the contents, but how many, basic box sets come with the tokens that you need to play the game? The mini rule book, play mat. Yeah, I went over this with the Corsairs. Every box set's the same, pretty much. What I really like is the battle deck. So, it's a game in a box. You split it with your friends. You each buy a battle box. You got 35 points, which is, pretty fun game. I haven't gone beyond 35 yet, and I'm still having fun with it. So that points to that. So, yeah, $50 entry fee. 2 factions, going to cost you $100, but then you have a friend to play with. So, as far as cost goes, I'm going to give it an A+. I mean, I do realize they had to, this material could have been better, but for what you get, it's an amazing deal. And, if some of the sculpts suffer because of that, so be it. Not a big deal for me. Like I said, I already talked about the quality of the models. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the mechanics for me. Now, before I start with that, like I said, I only got 4 games in, and I've got some rules wrong, and yeah, I'm learning, but this is one of those games that I want to invest in to learn more, because every time I learn something new, it sort of unlocks a layer of strategy. And I haven't experienced that in a lot of games that I've tried. And if you kind of question my gaming background, I play a lot of different games. This one has stood out the most, where they've tried to challenge and come up with something fresh, new, and original. So let's just go over why it is so fresh and new and original. Well, diceless. We've seen this before with your Malifaux. And I think a lot of people are going to compare this game to Malifaux. But I will say this. The combat system, yes, it's based, it has a card mechanic. But the card mechanic's actually very different from Malifaux. Having played both, I can speak with some authority about that. In Malifaux, you can declare your attack or spell or whatever, and you're flipping a card and you're adding the numeric value to one of your stats. So it's very stat based. Relic Knights, the stats come into play, but they're not as important as Malifaux. And in Malifaux, you can always declare your attacks, assuming you have range and line of sight and everything like that. With Relic Knights, not so. It's sort of a all or nothing system. I'll give you a quick example. Let's take the Diamond Core guys, and hopefully you can read that. But let's say we're going to use Rifle Burst, and that's going to be a ranged attack. It has a ranged attack symbol on it, and it says you need 2 purple Esper. So right off the bat, I can't declare this attack unless, or I can't declare that action unless I have the Esper to pay for it. And since I just broke open this box, it's going to be hard to do that. Okay, here we go. So I'm stacking the deck. So I go through my deck, and I'm like, okay, boom, I got the Esper, so I can declare it. So there's no randomness in declaring that attack. You either have the card or you don't. And if you don't, you can't declare the action. Randomness comes in when it comes to presses. So down below, this particular attack has a press of, it cost me 2 red. Now, after I declared the attack and paid for the attack, this is where your stats will come into play. So I'm going to draw, for my ranged attack, 2 additional cards off the top of my Esper deck. And hopefully, which is cool, because I got it, that card will be the card that I need to have the press. Or, you know, if I had the press to begin with, the card in my hand to begin with, I know I'm going to hit the press. Okay? So that's very different. It's a very different mechanic from Malifaux. Also, if you notice, this guy has a shield action. So when he gets attacked by something, I can use Esper to declare this action that will increase my armor by 2, or give me armor 2 actually, not increase. It just makes me armor 2. Not all things have that. Let's see. I've never played with this box set, so I'm not sure. So, for example, the M8 Blitz Auto Tank has no defense. So if it gets attacked, it gets attacked. That's very different from Malifaux, because, you know, Malifaux, the other player's always flipping in defense. Okay? So let's talk about combat for a little sec. There's already been, you know, the negative side of some of the combat rules, or what people have complained about. It's pretty simple. They say that ranged is sort of where it's at and melee isn't. Well, from my experience, I have not seen melee being underpowered. Considering in this game there are no deployment zones, so technically I could deploy my melee heavy hitter 9 inches from its target. I'm going to get into combat. And yes, there's no disengaging strikes in this game. You know, let's say these two guys are engaged. You know, and then I activate this unit, boom. You know, I could just walk out of combat and shoot it, but the downside of that is, you know, I'm already hit. Like that unit has already made an attack. And melee, for the most part, tends to dish out more damage. But this game really isn't about combat. As interesting as the combat mechanic is, that's not where this game really gets to me at. It has a couple of other mechanics that are really quite interesting. We'll talk about them real quick here. One, these are your objective markers, and you're always going to play with 3. So you'll have a primary objective and a secondary objective, and you're like, okay, big deal. Well, what's really cool about this game is that these objective markers, if I can find the cards, are physical things. They can be attacked. They have hitboxes. They have height. So I could technically hide behind an objective marker. They can be healed. You can interact with objectives in different ways. For example, one of the things you can do is, if this guy was holding Esper, and I'll go over holding Esper because that's also a neat mechanic in this game. I can infuse that that objective so that friendly units near it will gain Esper. You know, which is cool. So, like, some of the objectives that you have to do aren't. It's not just like a token. You know, put a token on. The tokens actually do different things. If I wanted to sabotage that objective, if that was one of my scenarios, not only would I put a token on it and say, you know, I'm closer to getting my goal, the sabotage will actually lower the armor of the objective. Okay? So there's a lot of different... the tokens actually have effects. And another cool thing about the game is they have these boost markers. This is what they use to kind of, you know, if you're like a couple of points short, you can buy boost markers. And boost markers are power-ups. Again, physical things in the game that can be destroyed, can be repaired, that help out your troops. So that's, it starts to get amazing once you start to look at what you can do in scenarios. And speaking of scenarios, you're always going to start with, you know, a primary and a secondary scenario. And they're not always going to be the same as your opponent. You flip randomly. which is cool. So the way the game works is pretty simple. Depending on your point level, you get to a certain point in the game, the game ends. Okay, which is perfect for tournaments because I can say, for example, okay, this round's going to last an hour, and after an hour, boom, you're done. Reason I can do that is because this game operates on a single turn system. So this is another really cool mechanic that we have here. So what you have here is this sort of ready mat where we queue up our characters. So depending on the number of points, let me just move crap out of the way. Let's say we're playing a 35-point game. I get 2 ready slots. Let me just zoom out. Not zooming in. Okay, so boom, boom, boom. So I queue up 2 units. There's an idle pile for the rest of them, and let's say I have these units, and then these guys over here are in the idle pile. Well, it would help if they're flipped around. Okay, so I put my corpse in the thing. Alright, so I go activate this. This unit gets to activate. It gets an initial move. It can declare an action and then move again, which means this game moves very quickly. Or, you know, sacrifice its turn and basically you get a mulligan. So it's called refocus. Let's say I get a shitty draw. I don't like my cards. I take this model. I say, okay, I refocus. Boom. I get to draw 5 more cards and I get a held Esper. So what does held Esper mean? So if we look on this model, actually kind of a bad example because he always gets a held Esper no matter what. But let's just go with it. He can hold up to 3 Esper on him. And this guy's an Esper master. So he gets all the Esper actions that go along with Esper actions. Anyways, hopefully that made sense to someone. Storing Esper is very important in this game because he can transfer it to other units, and what they can do with that is they can use that Esper and it counts as one of the big Esper, so it actually counts as 2. That's a 2, that's a 1. You can use either color on this card. Okay? They can use that so that you're not as hand dependent. So if you get a bad draw, you can always, you know, start shifting Esper around. And that's a really cool thing because it takes a lot of randomness out of the game. Okay. Let's see. Other mechanics that I really like besides what you do with the scenarios, the tokens. The ready queue is also pretty cool because once he's done activating, I could either put him in the idle pile or I can re-queue him. So this would slide over, boom, boom, boom. And this is why you can end like tournaments in like an hour because it's one continuous turn. You're not sitting there waiting for some other guy to go. Okay, sorry about that. There was a slight interruption. But we were talking about the ready queue system and how I have choices to do with my queue. So I could re-queue this unit right away and then activate that unit and he gets to go next. This unit does not have to activate, which is pretty interesting. It gives you some tactical choices depending on your situation, which is very interesting about the ready queue. The other thing, going back to scenarios real quick, what's interesting about the scenario is there are multiple ways to win this game. So in Relic Knights, you play to a certain point. So like 35 points you're playing, first guy to 8 points wins the game. The cool thing about that is you can win by concentrating on your primary and secondary objectives, or you have faction objectives. For example, well, since I've been playing pirates, I'll use them as an example. Even though you're looking at, Black Diamond, because I haven't played them yet. But for the pirates, they have, the booty raid, because they're pirates, and it's all about the booty, right? Anyways, so I can do that faction objective and score 2 points if I pull it off. So that gives me an option. Say like if I had an objective here that I needed to interact with, and my opponent is pretty savvy, and he's like, boom, I blow up your objective. Now you can't score that, right? It's gone off the map. You can adjust your strategy in game and say, okay, well, I gotta play towards my faction scenario now that you've taken that option off the table. And there's also a built-in destruction for you guys that just like to, you know, pound somebody's face in. In case you didn't hear that, I said pound somebody's face in because my phone just went off. And that's also pretty cool because, you know, let's say your questing knight is killed. You can get 3 VPs for killing a guy's questing knight. So it's not as punishing as War Machine, where the game will just automatically end if your, you know, general dies. In Relic Knights, it's important to keep him alive because he is worth points to the other side, but it's not as detrimental. You know, it's not just end game over. So you, like I said, you can go the destruction path if you need to score a couple of points, kill some units, and score that way. So I like the fact that you can change up your strategy even if you pull a bad scenario at the beginning. You can sort of play towards something else, and that I haven't seen that in a lot of games. I mean, I know we talked about War Machine real quick. In War Machine, you can always try to just cast or kill instead of play the objective, but here you can kind of mix and match and mix it up, which is amazing. So, yeah, I know, rambling way too much about this game, but pretty much that's it. Okay, so that is Relic Knights. That's my initial thoughts of it. I'm going to give this game an overall rating of, I'm going to give it a B+. Yes, I'm going to give it a B+. I'm going to be objective as possible. Is it a perfect game? No. I understand people who supported the Kickstarter waited, you know, almost 2 years. I don't know. Is it 2 years? In my opinion, what the end product came out was really surprising to me. You know, I thought this was just going to be a game with like some nice looking models, but it wasn't going to be a very interesting game. What I got was the exact opposite of that, where the models were slightly disappointing to me, but the mechanics of the game really what makes this game. Okay, like I said, they're not perfect. There are some wonkiness with how, you know, damage is allocated to squads. For example, this guy, let's say he's attacking this unit. Anybody within 6 can be allocated the damage. So I declare him as the target. Let's say I do 1 billion points of damage. It will get transferred, like his whatever, how many wounds he has. He's dead. The remaining wounds start getting transferred to the other models. That's kind of how squads work, unless you have some kind of push ability where you push them into terrain, and then each model takes damage. It's a little wonky and a little strange. It's not consistent. There are little things like that get in its way. But when I look at rules like that, I think of cinematic. Like, how many animes have you seen where, you know, one sword swipe goes through like 5-6 dudes, right? That always happens. Or, you know, like they have certain guns that just sort of launch this giant beam across the battlefield, and like everything in that line is hit, you know. Again, very cinematic, very anime-esque. That was the theme that they're going for, so that's fine with me. Same thing with pushes. You slam a guy against the wall, he's going to take damage. Yeah, so there's this game. The execution of the theme is pretty spot on. So my final thoughts: I give the entire game a B+. Like I said, it's not a perfect game. Anytime you come out with a system with rules this strange, there's going to be exploits. I know people online are always trying to break games. I mean, that's what they do. But I'm having a lot of fun playing this game, and hopefully all this rambling, if you're on the fence, if you're really considering this game but you're like, I don't know, just consider a couple of things. This is probably one of the most objective based and resource based tabletop games out there now. That and if you want to look at my gaming background, just go through my history. Okay, I played dystopia. I played Spartan games. I played, some GW. I played Blood Bowl. Blood Bowl to me is still #1 in my heart. Don't get me wrong, but this game, they have done an outstanding job, and I am just, it's kind of replaced a lot of things for me, and it's really surprised because, like most anime, some people just don't take anime serious because they think it's cartoony or whatever, and they look at this game sort of in the same faction. Well, this is a cartoony game, so it can't involve a lot of strategy. Well, so far, it's kind of blown my mind on the complexity that you can put into this game. And remember, I've only played like 4 games, so I haven't played big points. I think this game is going to be optimized at 50, because I think that's when you can start throwing some of your, individual units in. Some of your Iron Chefs, your Kanobos, that sort of thing. Because they're, like 13 points a pop. So it's very expensive to try to throw them in a 35-point list, but in a 50-point list, they probably work out a lot better. Anyways, if you're on the fence, consider this. So the aesthetic is part of the game. So anime, it has anime style mechanics. So if you're not into that, it's probably not the game for you. If you want a straight up beatdown game where you're like, you build a list and that's your like ultimate list, probably not the game for you. This has a lot of different ways where you can kite around and move around and not engage the enemy and score points. So if that's not your thing, you probably won't want to be into this game. I personally think this is one of the games that I like because I can play a different play style where I'm not dependent on this is a must buy, or you're hosed if you get this mission. There's just ways to do your in-game strategy over list builds. Always wins, in my opinion. This game has done a fantastic job of it. So I give the entire thing B+. I'll see you on the next one. Sorry for the length of this video. Sorry for the rambling. And yeah. Hopefully the next one's a battle report. We'll see the Black Diamond in action. Shine bright like a diamond.